What is going on, guys? We're back out here with the 4Runner again today, and today I'm going to show you guys how I fit these 295s on my 4Runner. Before we get into it, there is a little bit of work that you have to do in order to fit 295s, but it's not a whole lot, and I would 100% do it all over again if I had to. So the first thing we're going to have to do is do a body mount chop. If you're wondering how to do a body mount chop, I have a video on how to do that. So I'll link that one down in the description. So go check that out if you guys want to know how to do that. And the second thing is just a bunch of plastic, and you will have to end up hammering your pinch welds. Now, hammering your pinch welds is not a hard job. I literally hammered my pinch welds in probably 30 minutes to do the both of them, but I will be putting up a video on how to do that as well. So something to be prepared for that I would recommend is before you put your 295s on your 4Runner, do your body mount chop. If you do not do your body mount chop before you put your 295s on, you probably will not be able to drive home or turn. I did mine before. The plastic, I did not cut the plastic before I put the 295s on, and it rubbed so bad coming home. I went to a shop literally right down the street from my house, and like driving home, I mean, I was rubbing like crazy. I could barely turn. I ended up almost popping a fender off, so that wasn't fun. Really, the majority of the problem is the fender. It rubs so bad on that fender, so that's something that you're gonna have to keep in mind. So I'm going to show you guys how I did this, and let's take a look at what I've done. Okay, so this is what it looks like once I have cut everything to fit the 295s. Now let's start with the front. I'll tell you everything I did with the front. So with the front, obviously, I cut their bumper here. This has to be cut because your 295s, your bumper is going to come out to about here, and your 295s will hit on there really, really, really bad. So I'm going to end up replacing this front bumper, and I don't need to keep it. So I wasn't cutting it too pretty, but it still did the job, and you almost can't even tell. So I made a diagonal cut in the bumper on both sides, and then that freed up the front. With the exception, you will have to cut your fender liner on the inside. So my fender liner inside is pretty much almost non-existent. I've cut my fender liner from this point all the way over. And you know, your fender liner is going to come down here, and it's going to hook onto the front of your bumper. All that has to go. You could maybe try to push it forward. I didn't want to deal with all that because I'm literally going to be replacing this whole bumper anyway. So I literally cut off all that fender liner in there. So all this fender liner in here has to go. There's a couple screws down here. I literally just took a razor blade and cut all that stuff off. That'll pretty much take care of the front. The front is not very much work. A lot of the issues comes from the back. So let's take a look at the back. The next thing you're gonna do in order to fit your 295s is you're gonna hammer your pinch welds. I'm gonna cover that in a separate video and show you guys exactly how to do that, assuming your body mount chop is already done. Now, something to keep in mind when you put these 295s on here, this rear fender here is what's gonna rub really bad, and be extremely careful with it because you will pop it off. I've ripped mine almost halfway off driving home, so that wasn't fun, and I've had issues out of it ever since. I'll probably have to end up getting a new fender, honestly. But this fender, you're gonna have to end up cutting it because it rubs really, really bad. Now, when you hammer your pinch welds, you're basically gonna be hammering all this stuff flat, and then that's gonna give you plenty of space to turn. So I don't rub on this stuff anymore. I don't touch that anymore. And literally, as you can see, I made a straight line coming down from here all the way down. So you almost can't even tell that I even did anything with that. Your fender liner here is gonna come all the way down. I have cut my fender liner from the top here all the way over. And so all this stuff is open, but it's fine, and it won't do any damage to your vehicle at all. So that stuff I have already cut. You will have a couple screws holding your fender on, like this one here and this one here. And then there's gonna be either one or two more. I think there might be another one here and here. Those two I have cut off. Because these tires rubbed really bad on those screws and just all of that in there. So I kept this one here and this one, and I haven't had any issues with it, you know, the fender being wobbly or shaky or almost coming off or anything like that. So it's pretty darn sturdy. My body mount chop, as you can see, I actually did not cut it in enough. So I am rubbing on that pretty good, and I'm gonna have to end up cutting that. So you can just see how much your tire rubs in these areas. So that covers that side. Now we'll check out the other side. So as you can see with this side, I've done the same thing with the pinch welds on this side. Those are hammered, same thing with the fender liner on this side, that's taken care of. And then you can see just how much of this fender liner I have cut on the inside. I've cut all of this stuff. that is my washer fluid tank. I'm gonna end up doing a relocation on that. But all this stuff just down in here, all this fender liner in there, all that's completely gone. So it hasn't hurt anything. And honestly, when I put the front bumper on there, all this is gonna be completely gone and open anyway. So you'll be fine with that. Now, something that's gonna help you fit these 295s on better is if you have adjustable upper control arms and you have them push the front tire forward towards the front bumper. All right, so next let's check out the rear. So for the back, I have not had to cut a thing. If you're driving it regular, like on the road and stuff, you're not gonna have any issues out of these 295s on the rear. The only issues you'll have is if you start doing off-road stuff and it tucks and the wheel comes up to about here, you're gonna start rubbing. Now, I do have these mud flaps, quote unquote, on. These things are gonna end up coming off. I just left them on just because, but I'm rubbing on these screws here and kind of here as well. It's not horrible to where it'll rip your bumper off, but it rubs pretty good if you're at, you know, almost full tuck to about up here. Now, if I take those mud flaps off, it would probably be fine, but I haven't done that yet, and I'll probably end up doing that soon. But honestly, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna do a bumper cut on it. The reason I'm gonna do a bumper cut probably is because it'll help me just not rub as much. And then also I kind of just like the way it looks. It looks a little more aggressive. And then as well, I'm gonna end up putting a coastal off-road bumper on here anyway. So at the end of the day, this bumper is getting cut regardless. But if you're wondering how to trim the back, don't worry about it. Maybe just take the back mud flaps off, which I'm gonna do, but you don't have to do a bumper cut on the rear. The front is gonna take some work. So the front is where you're gonna have your issues at. Like I said, it's not a whole lot, but just to reiterate everything I said before, you're gonna have to cut your front bumper at the front there. You're gonna have to cut your fender liner on the inside of your bumper. And then with the rear, you're gonna have to end up doing a body mount chop and then hammering your pinch welds and also cutting a little bit of the back right there as well. So it's not too much work, but definitely just keep that in mind whenever you're looking at running these things. You're not gonna be able to just throw them on and call it a day. It is gonna take a little bit of work, but honestly, it might just be like a couple of days worth of work and you'll be good. So that pretty much covers how to fit your 295s on there. If you guys have any questions about, you know, running 295s, or if there's anything I can help you guys out with, leave it down in the description below. And I'll definitely answer all your questions. And if this stuff was helpful to you, definitely like and subscribe. I've got a lot more content coming out on the 4Runner and a lot more work I'm doing to it. So definitely stay tuned for that. And I'll see you guys in the next video.